And welcome into the Varsity Voices podcast presented by C Spire. It is our second quarter episode this week, and this segment is brought to you by Atmos Energy. Be sure to call before you dig. And hey, it is playoff time. Can you believe it's already playoff time for some of the classifications, the smaller ones, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to jump right in and take a look at playoffs for the 4A classification. We'll start from the top down, so 4A, 3A, and then we'll go 2A and 1A in a later segment. But guys, looking at 4A, and got some good matchups and some that you might expect as blowouts, which is want to happen when you have a 1 seed and a 4 seed going head to head. But taking a look at not just 4A North or South, but collectively 4A as a whole, we'll take a look at some things that stood out to you. Whether you think someone got hosed on, they got a hard road, or that maybe they got a little bit of an easier road. Just how things played out. We'll go with Brandon Davis first and get your thoughts on the bracket, because I mean, you're a 4A guy. You're from Greene County, and they got a tough one in the first round.
Oh man, from the north half though, and I think it's rather obvious. I mean, as you've said, some of these matchups are okay, but I look at two matchups that really are tough in my opinion: Kosciuszko and Rosa Fort. Uncle Breck, what the heck did y'all do to draw Rosa Fort in the first round? I mean, Rosa Fort, a powerful rushing team, 320 yards a game, 338 carries. I think they run, didn't you say like some type of a single wing, but 44 rushing touchdowns on the season for Rosa Fort. That is going to be a banger of a ball game against Kosciuszko. I like, Kosciuszko being a little more balanced. And then Shannon, New Albany, that's an interesting game looking at the bottom half of the bracket as well. Shannon's a very good ball team. Of course, New Albany has one of the top senior quarterbacks in the state, and just a very good team. And when I look at the south part of that bracket, South Pike and Pass Christian, and people may say South Pike, but I mean, that could be a potential upset. I know that we'll look at some of the numbers that Jake ran here in a minute on that, but I like that game. I think that's an interesting ball game, and I do think that my boys from Greene County are going to give Macomb a ball game. They have to go over to Macomb to take on the Tigers. That's going to be a tough one as well. But but I can't get over that Kosciuszko Rosa Fort game. To me, that seems like a game that you'd see further into the bracket. So that should be a fun one on Friday night.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. Would have preferred Ripley, right? Because last week we were talking, or whatever it was, when Kosciuszko would get the loser of Rosa Fort and Ripley. But Rosa Fort's a good ball club, so I'm excited about that one. I'll give you my thoughts here, towards the end of the segment. But Jared Schatz, what stood out to you about 4A?
Yeah, I mean, Brandon did a really good job of covering 4A, and like he said, there's a couple that catch your eye, and there's a lot that should not get an upset. I'll say this one should not be an upset, but how about the Richland Rangers, guys? They are 6-4. They've got a tough League Central team on the road. We'll see if maybe they can make that a ball game, but the one that really caught my eye, Newton County better be careful with Mendenhall. That is a good Mendenhall team. And they've beaten some quality teams this year. That's the one that I'm keeping my eye on, is Newton County versus Mendenhall.
Yeah, that one kind of stood out to me as well. But Jake Wimberly, let's get your thoughts on this 4A bracket and some things, maybe key matchups or hardest or easiest roads to the championship.
Yeah, let's keep this in mind too. The bracket is what it is. I mean, you're matched up with different regions throughout MHSA. So what makes this interesting about the way that we do playoffs now is you can go back into the 90s and early 2000s. It used to be the top 2 teams of each region made the playoffs. Then they expanded it to 4. So you do get some lackluster games in here. There are teams in here that have 0 shot. But there are some really good teams and some really good games. I will say this, Brandon Davis, I don't think that, with all due respect, sir, South Pike has any shot to take out Pass Christian, but that Pass Christian team, and we'll look at, they are very, very good. Now look, South Pike, though, to their credit, I mean, that is a a program full of a lot of rich history. They have played in some championships, won a lot of ball games, so that'll be fun. But I'm looking towards, a team like, you look at Macomb. They're in that R7-2. They're the second seed versus Greene County. How deep a run can they make? And can they really challenge Poplarville? If Poplarville gets down that far, who out of the South can challenge? A Columbia team that has really just been all gas and no brakes. And if you go to the North half too, Clarksdale, they won the region. They're the Region 3 winner. How deep a run can they make? And of course, I'm gonna let Breck talk about this, but you got the Whippets up there, man, in the north half of the bracket. They avoid, the North Pontotoc, Louisville, Shannon, Clarksdale side. They wouldn't see them till the Final Four, the semis. So look, 3A, 4A, it's a grind. It's always the funnest bracket, and typically those are the funnest championship games when we get to the site.
I'll jump in here with one quick one. The fact that Poplarville has to travel to Forest County AHS, the team that took 5 overtimes to win 6-0 over Moss Point. That's a road trip to have to go out there into Forest County.
Here's one more that we did not discuss. Morton versus West Lauderdale really is one of the most evenly matched games that I see.
Yeah, that's where I was going with. You guys kind of hit all the other high points there, and I was going to go with the West Lauderdale and Morton. Of course, West Lauderdale, big tradition there. I know they're kind of young this year, but as we've talked about, you don't want to play young teams late in the season because they kind of start figuring some things out. So I agree. I think West Lauderdale and Morton's going to be a fun matchup there. But I think Kosciuszko, Roosevelt, and Shannon and New Albany got to be the two, as Brandon Davis mentioned, the two best games out of the bracket with a chance to be the most competitive. Shannon and New Albany are two teams that thought that maybe they would be 1 seeds out of their respective regions, when the season started. Of course, fell on hard times and season plays out. And Roosevelt to be a 3 seed, I mean, they came out of that district over there with Clarksdale and Senatobia. And, those are two favorites in the north. And Clarksdale, I should say, Roosevelt got blown out by Senatobia. They played Clarksdale really close. It was 32-30 this past week when Roosevelt took on Clarksdale. And we mentioned in our Player of the Week, Hargrove had a good game. Christian Alexander had a great game. I got 400-something yards against Clarksdale. So, and the single wing is not something that you see every day. The old school, almost Notre Dame box style. I call it backyard football, right? You hear, I'm going to run and you block, right? Seriously, that's all it is. I talked to Michael Harrison, Ripley's play-by-play guy earlier, and he said the same thing. He said they'll just get lined up. They'll snap it to somebody. There'll be 4 guys, a couple of guys back there. One of them will get it, and they just take off. Barely ever pass the ball. So I like single-wing football, so I'm excited to call the game this week. But, definitely a tough one for Kosciuszko. Brandon, you had something.
Well, yeah, and I'll say this. I mean, when you get past this first round in 4A, and I know we'll look at all these brackets, to me, 4A is the one that's the most wide open. I mean, you got teams like Corinth, Kosciuszko, Senatobia, Clarksdale, Louisville. Then you look at the South, Macomb, Poplarville, Columbia, Pass Christian, which, by the way, Jake, I do have Pass Christian beating South Pike. I just do think it could be a little fuzzy, but no, I mean, it's so wide open in 4A. So, I mean, the two teams that we're going to see in Starkville are going to be battle tested and maybe beaten up. But 4A is going to be a lot of fun this year, guys.
It's one of the best championship games we get every year. No matter where the games are, 4A never disappoints.
And to a point here, we just talked about, every one of us talked about 4A, and nobody mentioned Louisville until Brandon just said it. That tells you how deep 4A really is. The Louisville, who we crowned as the number 1 best program in the state, no one's even talking about Louisville because all the other teams that are there in the bracket. But we have something that Jake Wimberly's put together. He's kind of done it before earlier in the season with the probability. So, Jake, walk us through this probability here on the numbers and the most likely teams to make it to the championships.
Yeah, and look, we'll be able to run this weekly moving forward, just to kind of give you a quick rundown to take less than 2 minutes of what we call win probabilities. used through, if you love math, it's the Monte Carlo simulation, 10,000 iterations. It's used by ESPN. It's used by others just to kind of help tweak models of, hey, percentage of a chance to make the college football playoff, percentage of a chance to win the SEC, that kind of stuff. So at least this week going into the bracket, guys, here's what the model said. It said Columbia has the best chance to win the entire thing at 16.82%. Pass Christian at number 2. And look, some of these you can disagree with, obviously, 10.12%. But then the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams, and this lends to what everybody's saying here, how tough this bracket is. 6 teams are within a point of each other, and we're talking about North Pontotoc, Senatobia, Kosciuszko, Louisville, Clarksdale, Macomb, Leaks. You go down this list all the way down to Corinth and Forest. And we're looking at percentage of a chance to win. 8.6%, 7.9%. And those numbers maybe seem low, but you're talking about an overall populace. Like, the entire field, Columbia has the best chance of everybody at 16.82%. But this will change weekly as the bracket unfolds. And as we move through this, if there's upsets, it will take that into consideration, obviously, because those teams will be out. But right now, guys, the model likes Columbia, and it also likes Pass Christian, and both of those teams play in the South.
Yeah, and so a lot of interesting numbers there. You see, it's kind of unnerving seeing Louisville down as low as they are, because you know what Louisville does in the playoffs. But of course, you got the players there, Columbia, and then in the north you go in with Senatobia, Kosciuszko, Clarksdale, Louisville, Itawamba, that whole crew. So yeah, really, really cool numbers. Anything stand out to any of you other guys in the probability here? I mean, I think we all probably.
I would say
Columbia will be number 1.
Yeah, watch out for Kosciuszko and watch out for Clarksdale. I think those are 2 very underrated teams, and I know everybody knows they're good programs, but they're capable. They're deep enough to make a run to a state championship.
And keep this in mind. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on y'all real quickly. The model doesn't take into consideration any kind of strength of schedule, because we don't really have a strength of schedule metric in Mississippi high school football. So, we can look at it and we can all agree, hey, this team played a harder schedule than that team. For instance, Louisville, their 2 losses are, I believe, are out of conference to higher rated teams, higher classified teams. So it doesn't take that into consideration. You can tweak it a little bit with stuff like that, but that's just something to keep in mind here.
Yeah, Louisville only lost to Starkville and West Point, right? Yeah, that's it. Pretty good losses there for the Wildcats. So that's a look at our thoughts on 4A, our thoughts, and then the mathematical thoughts on 4A from Jake Wimberly. We'll take a moment to tell you that with C Spire, you've got all the technology you need for connected living. Fiber, fast home internet, ultra-secure Wi-Fi, and nationwide 5G wireless that you can count on. There's more to see at cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired. But we are going to step aside for a break. When we come back, we'll do what we just did, but for 3A. So we're back after this here on the Varsity Voices podcast presented by C Spire.
Elegance is in the details. Pine Straw America's premium longleaf pine straw subscription ensures your landscape stays pristine season after season. Precision edging, flawless installation, because your home deserves nothing less. Pine Straw America.
Delicious, savory barbecue doesn't happen by accident. And great wings don't happen by accident either. Whether you're heating up the smoker or firing up the grill, the award-winning crafted in Mississippi finishing sauces and marinades of the Oxford Falls makes every meal a masterpiece and every bite unforgettable. The Oxford Falls helps make every mouth-watering meal one to remember. Shop now at theoxfordfalls.com and get free shipping on orders over $100.
Every job starts with the right equipment. At Empower Rental Group, we've got what it takes to get you moving fast. Empower Rental Group has it all to get the job, large or small, done right. From pickup to delivery, we're your trusted local rental partner. Rent online at renterg.com. That's renterg.com. Or come by and talk to our friendly team today. Empower Rental Group, built for the job.
With 11 seconds, going to give it to Tyson. Tyson's going to rip. Tyson's in. Touchdown, Bulldogs! With 7 seconds to go in the ball game, Dogs regain the lead on a 3-yard Tyson Robinson touchdown.
And welcome back into the Varsity Voices podcast presented by C Spire. our second quarter segment this week where we're breaking down the playoffs. We talked 4A. Now let's talk about the guys in 3A. Of course, the defending champs are Choctaw County and Noxubee County is the runner-up. They're both in the north, so we'll have a new representative coming out of the south no matter what happens. But guys, looking around the 3A, what do you look at? We let Brandon start off in 4A, so let's let Jared Schatz start off with a look at 3A.
Yeah, I mean, look, the team that I would not want to play, let's start with that. How about Winona? That is a really hot football team right now. Coming in, I think they've won 4 in a row and 6 of their last 7. They won a state championship a couple of years ago in Oxford. That's a really good football team that I think a lot of people wrote off early. That is a hot football team. So Winona is kind of the one I would not want to mess with right now coming into the playoffs. Tylertown and Hazelhurst, 6-4 Tylertown, 5-3 Hazelhurst. That should be a pretty good ball game. My biggest question, guys, is can JDC wake up? Can JDC wake up? We've been waiting on it all year, but I think it's a little bit difficult to prepare for that old school wing T offense in the playoffs. Not everybody runs it, but obviously they figured something out on it, all the opponents this year, because JDC just has not taken that next step up. But can they get a big win against an undefeated Union team? That would be a heck of an upset. So those are kind of the things that I'm looking at right now. But yeah, I mean, those are. There's not as much parity, let's be honest, as there is in 4A. That's what stuck out from the playoff bracket.
Yeah, I would agree. And to talk about Winona taking on O'Bannon there in the first round. But Brandon Davis, throw it to you. What do you like and what do you don't like here in 3A?
I think you're going to see a lot of blowouts in the first round. I really do. Jerry talked about it. Not a lot of parity. Now, one that I think is interesting ball game down bottom half of the bracket. I like what the Fighting Richard Russos have been doing at North Panola this year. That is a gritty ball team, and they've made their way. They've snuck their way into the playoffs. We talked about it being any man's, new season. They're going up against a Belmont team that has really flown on the radar. 7-3 on the season. They have taken some, the losses they've taken, one to Booneville, they lost to Kossuth, and then they lost to Red Bay, Alabama. But they've played a very good schedule. I think Belmont's a team that might surprise some people. But, other than that, Seminary is a team that I wouldn't want to play. Mitch Evans is putting that team together. They're playing some good football. And then look at West Marion. West Marion won the region that they won with Tylertown and PCS. That is a tough team that I wouldn't want to play. And Port Gibson at one time was undefeated. They took on Simmons earlier in the season. So I wouldn't take anything away from the Blue Wave down at Port Gibson. But that North Panola Belmont game really is intriguing to me, and anxious to see how that plays out.
Jake Wimberly, let's get your thoughts on 3A.
Yeah, I'm with everybody else. I believe that this is not a deep field. That there's going to be a lot of blowouts here. There's a couple teams that I'm looking at. I think Brandon nailed it. I think the Seminary team is one team. You look at those guys, and we'll talk about the model and what the model likes here in a minute. Also, when you kind of scroll back through this bracket and you look, Hazelhurst is a team. They got to take on Tylertown. Watch out for those guys. I mean, they may have to match up against Union coming up in the second round, but watch Hazelhurst. They have a lot of speed, a lot of athleticism. They always do. And then you look at Pisgah, is this a team that can potentially grab a game or two? But I do think this is a top heavy field in 3A.
Yeah. And I like, we'll take a look at some of the other ones here that kind of caught my eye. Noxubee County, of course, you can't rule out Noxubee County. They kind of fell on a little bit of hard times, but taking on a good, Yazoo County team there. And then Choctaw County, same thing, defending state champs, once again, kind of started off hot, and then I've seen them in person. They got some guys, they got some dudes on that team. So I wouldn't count out the Chargers of Choctaw County as they'll take on Edwards there in the first round. Caleb Hamill, your thoughts on the 3A bracket?
Yeah, I really feel like the first round matchups are pretty much some lopsided things that we're going to see, but it's the second round matchups that I'm looking forward to. Possibly a sleeper in a Raleigh PCS could be interesting. PCS is a really high flying throwing offense. with some talented wide receivers there. Somebody, I think it was Jake, mentioned possibly Union and Hazelhurst or Tylertown could be a good one. Union's still undefeated right now. But I think if you had to really pick one that is going to be really interesting moving forward, I really like the idea of West Marion and Seminary down there in the South. That could be possibly the winner takes that quadrant heading towards South State.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the West Marion and Seminary would be a great second round matchup. Shots, you had another comment.
Yeah, McGee and Quitman. That's one we missed. And these teams are very similar as far as the stat sheet. Both teams run the football pretty well. 140 yards for McGee. Quitman about 136 yards a game. McGee a little bit more through the air, 156 yards passing and 124 yards a ball game for Quitman. When you look at how these guys are match up, this could be a very intriguing round one game. Trojans are 6-3 on the year. Panthers 6-4. So that's another game I wanted to make sure that we got in there as far as something that may possibly be a very close ball game in round one, because I know a lot of these we were thinking were probably going to be blowouts. That one could be one of the closer ones.
Yeah, and well, let's turn it over to Jake Wimberly. Tell us what the mathematics and what the ones and zeros and the numbers say.
Well, that's why we do this together, because you guys are some of the most brilliant minds, and I'm just saying that, in Mississippi high school sports. And when we look at, what the model says here, it likes Union right now with an 18.94% chance to win the entire bracket. Raleigh comes in at number 2 at 12.17, Kossuth at 10.66. And then after that, it drops a little bit, but you've still got some of the players you guys have talked about. West Marion at 6.29, Noxubee County 6.09, PCS at 4.61, Belmont, McGee. You get into Humphreys County and Winona. So, it's kind of a top-heavy field with Union, Raleigh, and Kossuth. But I think if you look at that second group, it likes West Marion, Noxubee County, PCS. A lot of the same teams that you guys are talking about. The model kind of trends in what you're saying. It's a top-heavy bracket, but you get a night, a cold night in Mississippi in November, and things can happen. And we may, look up and all of us go, wow, wait a minute. Did you just see what happened in 3A?
I am surprised how far the models do not like Seminary. That's a team that gave Raleigh all they wanted a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. And again, remember, it doesn't take into account for strength of schedule and none of that. So as the bracket moves, these percentages moves for people that, or for teams that stay in this thing. So I'll be interested to see how it turns out next week after round one.
Yeah. So let's have a look at 3A and 4A as they'll be kicking off playoffs this week. And I'll say something totally not about playoffs, but now that I have a lot of them in front of me, 3A's got maybe the best grouping of mascots. We got the Red Panthers, you got the Cowboys, you got the Green Waves, you got the
Lions,
Blue Waves, you got the Fighting Irish, you got the Dragons, you got the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. That's a great matchup. Great mascots there in 3A, and I do love a good high school mascot. But that's our look at 3A and 4A. Tomorrow in our next episode, we're going to break down the smaller classifications, the 2A and the 1A. Well, that wraps it up here for us on this episode. So for Caleb Hamill, Jake Wimberly, Jared Schatz, Brandon Davis, Breck Riley signing off here on the Varsity Voices podcast presented by C Spire.